This vlog is sponsored by Skillshare. Hi guys, welcome back to the Road to Van Life series. This series will be your go-to for learning everything you need to know when it comes to starting your van life journey. I'm really excited about this series because I love sharing tips with you guys and helping you achieve your dream life too. Each episode we will be diving deep into one topic at a time, where we will chat about topics like setting yourself up as a digital nomad, finding a place to park up, designing your dream layout, and the horrid parts of van life too, like choosing a toilet suitable for you and where to put your waste. We'll also get to meet so many cool van lifers along the way, and I can't wait. In today's episode, we'll be talking about picking the right base van for a DIY camper conversion. There are hundreds of vans out there and lots of specs that need to be considered before choosing a van. So what I'm going to do is run through a few things that you need to consider first before picking your base van, and then from there we can take a look at the most popular vans and the differences between them and why one of them might be just for you. If you do decide to go for something more niche, hopefully the advice and tips in this vlog will still help you out along the way. What do you want out of a camper van? I think this is the most important thing to consider when it comes to choosing your van. What exactly do you want out of your rolling home? Do you want a static bed? If so, usually a traverse bed at the back is the best use of space. Do you want to be able to stand? If so, you will need a high roof or a pop top. How many people will be travelling in the van? This will determine how many seats will be needed, and you'll probably want quite a big payload for a family of 4. Do you want to be incognito? Then a classic panel van is probably your best bet. Will you be travelling long term or short term? If small trips are for you, then maybe a smaller van will work for you. So I'm a list kind of person, so I'm going to suggest to you to write a list of all of the things that you think is priority to have out of your rolling home. And then when you go around looking at vans, you can tick off whether the van meets the criteria that you want out of it, and then hopefully you'll find your dream van. Extra info. Okay, so before we start looking at all of the popular vans and comparing specs, I did just want to note a few things. One, all of this info is UK based. Here in the UK, those who got their driving licence after 1990 can drive vehicles up to 3.5 tonnes. Anyone who got their licence before can drive vehicles up to 7.5 tonnes. Therefore, when on the lookout for a van, make sure you pick one that you're legally allowed to drive. Otherwise, you can look at getting a C1 licence, which is a couple of £1,000s. Also, with this being UK based info, I did just want to note that the gross vehicle weight is different here to the US. So for example, a Mercedes Sprinter long wheelbase, here's gross vehicle weight is 3.5 tonnes, whereas in the US it's 3.8 tonnes, and their license permits for that. So now we've got those points covered, let's take a look at a few of the popular vans on the road. And I've done a graph for you guys because I am nerd. So here is my graph. I have listed out popular van models for conversions along the top. As you can see, the body of the Sprinter and Crafter are the same, as well as the Peugeot Boxer, Relay and Ducato. There may be differences in features though, which I will leave for you to look into. I know there are plenty more cars, vans, buses, lorries, but as said, I'm just sticking to the popular ones. But hopefully with this info, you know what to go away and look out for. On the market, you'll find Sprinters and Crafters being the most expensive, with Boxers and Transits being more reasonably priced. Lutons are surprisingly valued really well, and the great thing about these are if you get one where the box is removable, if your van goes RIP, you can just pick up your home and dump it onto the next van. Then we have the Vivaro, etc., which is popular for small vans. Again, much cheaper than all the others, but also half the size. And then down the side, I've listed what I believe are the key specs you need to be looking at when it comes to choosing the right van. So the gross vehicle weight is the overall vehicle weight. An important piece of information to know, as said before, is that the US is different to here. So if you're using a US van conversion as inspiration, just bear this in mind when you go to kit yours out. The curb weight is the weight of the vehicle, including a full tank of fuel and all standard equipment. It does not include the weight of any passengers, cargo or optional equipment. Payload is the gross vehicle weight minus the curb weight, so the capacity a vehicle is able to carry, including passengers, dogs, and any water tanks, toilet tanks, etc. being full. Then the next 3 are the width, length, height of the loading area, which I call the home. Before we crack on with today's vlog, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Skillshare, who are sponsoring today's vlog. Members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes, with hands-on projects and feedback from a community made up of millions, and most classes are under 60 minutes to fit any schedule. As you know, I've been using Skillshare for the past month now, and I've recently completed Sorella Moore's classes, YouTube Success, How to Build an Authentic Channel. She is an epic human and I've learned so much from her over the years, and I've learned even more with her Skillshare classes. If you like videography and photography like me, I think you'll love her classes too. Skillshare believes that a strong community is essential to personal growth, so why not tap into the support of fellow creatives who provide encouragement, communication and inspiration. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description below will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare Premium, so you can explore your creativity too. I already can't wait to start my next lot of classes. Now let's go back to picking the right van for you. So from looking at my wonderful graph, there are a few things worth noting. For example, the Transit. It's part of all the big vans like the Boxer and the Sprinter. However, you can see that the gross vehicle weight is the smallest. However, it has no detriment to the payload, which is good. So then we've got like the Peugeot Boxers, Ducatos and Relays. They have the biggest payload. For me, this is a really important spec, hence why I've kitted out 2 Peugeot Boxers in my life. I think it's really important to have a huge payload so you have more space to play with the weight when it comes to kitting out your van and filling it with all of your wonderful belongings. And then the small vans like the Vivaro, you can see that the payload is nearing the Sprinters and the Lutons, so you really have no worry about kitting one of those out. So they actually are a perfect van for a first time van converter. And then when we look at the width, you've got your Lutons with the biggest width at 2 meters 20, so it's perfect for a traverse bed. In fact, it's 20 centimeters longer than an actual bed. So if we then look at the width of the Boxers, Ducatos and Relays, which are 187 centimeters wide, once you've put like your insulation and your cladding or your ply lining in, you're going to be bringing it down to about 180 centimeters for a bed. I'm 5'5", so it works out for me, but if you're any taller than that, it might be quite a tight fit. So you then might want to look at adding like sleeping pods to extend the width of your van, or not putting in insulation in that area. And then if we look at the height of the vans, the Transit's coming in of the smallest of the big vans at 188.5 centimeters, which is about 6'2". But then you've got to consider the fact you're going to insulate the floor and the roof, clad it or put laminate flooring in, etc., which will knock off about 3 to 4 inches. So really, in reality, you end up with about 5'8" inches. And then finally to note, I have just picked the standard long wheelbase of each van, like an L3H2. So if you did need more height or more length, you can get different variations of each model. For example, short, medium and long wheelbase, low, high and extra high roofs. So it's worth looking into if you need a bit more of something. And then if you're looking to find specs for a specific van, I always use anchorvans.co.uk/specifications, and I'll pop the link in my description below if you want to check that out. So I'm hoping all of this information has helped you understand the differences between all the vans, and also giving you an idea on what specs to look out for when picking your van. But if you've got any questions, ask me in the comments below. And now we'll look at where you can find a van, where to shop for a van. This one's really quick. I have bought 4 vans, and the places that I've found the best to look for a van is Gumtree, eBay, Auto Trader, Facebook Marketplace and Anchor Vans. Next, things to look out for when picking a van. This question gets asked quite a lot, and I'm definitely no mechanic, so the tips that I'm giving you here are what I do so that I'm comfortable with the van and know that it's appropriate for a future home. First of all, I would decide what mileage and age I want to have out of the van, and I definitely would put mileage first versus the age. So I would say a van under 120,000 miles is always worth looking at. That's just based on my opinion and the fact that vans are built to be workhorses, and some can go up to 300,000 miles, but I would always go in there presuming you'll get a minimum of 200,000 miles out of a van. I would probably stretch the mileage of the van if I know it's got full service history and has been well maintained, which I'll chat to you about in a second. So once I've determined what age and mileage I want out of a van, I'd start looking around on the internet, and once I'd found a few, I'd get in contact with the seller and start asking a few questions, get chatting with them. This is the perfect time to start gauging whether they're trustworthy. The questions I'd ask would be like, what was the van used as before? Are there any issues I should be aware of? What recent work has it had? Does it have a full service history? Do you have the paperwork? How many owners has it had? And is there any rust issues I should be made aware of? And if possible, I ask if they can send across the paperwork in advance. That way I've got no pressure on me to have a rummage through and proper look into it. If they can't, not a problem. I just ask that it will be ready when I get there. If they don't have the paperwork, the van is definitely a no-go for me. Also to note, if you are looking at vans at around the 100,000 mile mark, this is typically when parts need to start being replaced. Every van is different, so it's worth looking into the exacts of each van, and then when you check the paperwork you can see what has and hasn't been done. MOT check. Other things I do prior to a physical check is do the MOT check online, which is free on the Gov website, link in the description below. Just remember guys, just because a van has had a lot of work on it doesn't necessarily mean that the van is dud. Sometimes it can actually mean that they've just really looked after their van. Looking at the MOT will also help determine what issues regularly occur, any new parts it's had, and what you might be looking at spending on the next MOT if the advisories haven't been fixed. HPI check. I'd also advise to get a HPI check, which you can do at hpi.co.uk. What this is a comprehensive vehicle history check where you can find out if there's any hidden secrets, whether it's been stolen, whether it's been modified or clocked, for example. Service history. I also check service history. I always go for one with full service history or at least good service history. Of course, if you have a mechanic coming with you on the day, you might be able to find one without. That's still in perfect working order. Service history to me just means that the owner has looked after their van. Things to look out for when viewing a van. So moving on to checking the physical van. As mentioned before, I am no mechanic, but I do have a few things up my sleeve worth noting. And if you don't want to do this bit by yourself, ask a friend to come with you who knows about vans, or you can hire a mechanic from places like the AA to come with you. Anyway, so I've now bought 4 vans, 2 Peugeot Boxers, 2 Vauxhall Vivaros, and these are my tips for checking a van. Always take the van on a test drive and make sure you use it in every single gear. I think it's really important to hear the engine run and to feel the drive. Check everything in the cab, from the windscreen wipers, radio, aircon, the windows, anything electrical, make sure it's working. Again, I'm no mechanic, but make sure you check the engine oil, make sure it's clean, make sure it's at the right level, and then you know that the van is being looked after. Check for rust everywhere, on the bonnet, the wheel arches, and underneath the van. Okay, so this is a little bit of a weird one, but you want to check that all the doors seal, and by doing that you basically want to put yourself in the back of the van, close all the doors, and just make sure that there's no light poking through any of the doors or any rust holes and things like that. And then just in general, bonus points if the ply lining has been kept in good condition, because then you can assume that it's good condition behind the scenes too, as you're probably not going to be allowed to take that out. Plus you can then reuse it or use it as a template when you're building your van. Okay, so let's move on to some tips and advice. Tips and advice. Get warranty. If they don't offer you warranty, you can get yourself warranty. I've done this before with Warranty Wise. Again, you can find the link to their website in the description below. The big vans fall under class 7 for MOT. Not all garages do class 7 vehicles, so make sure that you have one in your local area, or just keep an eye out for them whilst you're on the road. Don't be afraid to ask the seller to do a service or renew the MOT if you feel like the van is worthy but has a lack of paperwork. On Facebook, there are loads of Facebook groups dedicated to particular vans, so if you want to find out more about that van, like issues that might regularly occur, those are the best places to go have a look. So if you're still not sure which van to go for after all of this, it might be worth renting a van that you're looking into first. So guys, I'm going to call that a wrap on today's The Road to Van Life episode. I really hope all of these tips and advice will help simplify picking a van that's right for you. And you know what to do guys, if you've enjoyed this vlog, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe and turn on those notifications. And make sure to keep tuned for more episodes in this brand new series, The Road to Van Life, which will be your go-to for learning everything you need to know when it comes to starting your van life journey. Ciao!